Okay, so let's talk about the Battle of Actium in 31 before Common Era. Go ahead and make a new bullet, if you would please. And we're going to write down Battle of Actium 31 before Common Era. So Octavian and Agrippa in their fleet. Remember, Agrippa is the main general for Octavian. After Octavian was struggling to win battles by himself, Agrippa now takes over as the main commander. So together, they have 250 ships, 16,000 troops, and 3,000 archers. All right, so that's what they have. Mark Antony and Cleopatra, they have 290 ships, 20,000 troops, and about another 2,000 archers on their ships. Okay, so that kind of gives you a little bit of breakdown between the two and what the forces is that they have. This is going to be our major confrontation in the Civil War here. So this is our major battle between the two of them. This is the biggest battle between the two of them that they're going to have. Now, Mark Antony has these massive ram ships. Go ahead and make it 2 and write down Mark Antony had massive ram ships. So he has these massive ram ships called coquariums, and these ships are pretty tall, height-wise, and they're made for just kind of smashing into the enemy ships and breaking them. I mean, that's what they're designed for. So they're these pretty big and powerful ships. They're not very fast though, but they are very big and powerful. Gotta make it 3 and write down Octavian had smaller, more maneuverable ships. So Octavian, his ships are smaller than the coquariums that Mark Antony has, but they are very maneuverable. You can move them around a lot easier. They're very agile. So they're a lot more agile. They can move easier. But they can't really ram and destroy a ship. They attach themselves to ships, and then they have their soldiers then invade the other boat. All right, so that's how kind of ship combat works at this time period. Yeah, you can smash a ship and break it and sink it, but a lot of times you ram the ship and maybe it breaks it and sinks it, maybe it doesn't, and you have to then jump on the enemy ship and start stabbing. That's generally how kind of combat works this time period. So I'll show you the map of what the battle looks like here. So in the battle, in purple is Mark Antony's forces. In red is Octavian's forces, led by Agrippa. And you can see that Agrippa has his name right there. So that's where Agrippa is on the battlefield. So that's where he's at. Mark Antony is right over here. So you can see where his name is. I realize this says Octavius right here, but that's not the Octavian we're talking about. Our Octavian that we've been talking about is over here. Yeah, some people have similar names. It's confusing. So remember Octavian, he's the person kind of in charge of Rome at this time period, and his main general is right there, Agrippa. And you see Mark Antony is over here, and you see Cleopatra is right back here. So you can see where the Gulf was over here. So Mark Antony had all his ships over here, just kind of hanging out. Agrippa figured it out, brought Octavian's fleet down here, and then cut off the exit. So there was no way for him to leave. So what ends up happening at the Battle of Actium? What ends up happening at the Battle of Actium is that Agrippa, his ships are smaller, more maneuverable, and he's able to kind of surround Mark Antony's boats one at a time. So because Mark Antony boats don't turn very quickly and they can't move very quickly, Octavian's smaller boats are able to kind of encircle the boats of Mark Antony's one at a time. So Agrippa can just have his boats encircle one boat, destroy it, move on, encircle another one, destroy it. And because the boats of Mark Antony are pretty slow, they're not able to kind of break up the forces of Agrippa. And over here on this side right here is able to get around this angle of Mark Antony's forces. So Octavian's able to get his boats kind of around over here and push this line up. So Octavian's able to kind of swing around and start to kind of encircle the boats, which means he doesn't have to worry about just smashing boats on the sides or from the front. He can actually attack boats from behind. So he's able to kind of circle around and get into the back of the lines. And this angle right here is pushed up. When this angle gets pushed up and the line and these boat lines collapse, Cleopatra, who's over here, decides, nope, I don't want any part of this. And she then shoots for that opening down here. So remember how we talked about how this all got moved up here. So that created an opening down here. Cleopatra then shot through that opening and got out. So she's like, nope, bail, bam. And she kind of shoots through that opening to get out. When Mark Antony sees Cleopatra fleeing, he decides to do the same thing. So then he bails and shoots for that opening as well. So Mark Antony and Cleopatra both bail, bam, they shoot for that opening. And with both of them retreating and leaving, Agrippa then, one by one, encircles and destroys the fleet of Mark Antony. All right, so that's the Battle of Actium. All right, go ahead and make a 4. We're going to write down Cleopatra's ships fled when the going got tough. Going to write that down for 4. So Cleopatra's ships fled when the going got tough. So Cleopatra fled and Mark Antony fled. Where they flee to? Well, they left and they went to Alexandria. So they both fled and they both retreated back to the capital of Egypt, which was called Alexandria. And they just kind of go down to Alexandria and they're trying to recruit up a new army. While they're recruiting up a new army, Octavian and Agrippa then get the forces of Octavian together and they start marching over land, taking over a bunch of territory of Mark Antony's while they're making their way towards Alexandria. So basically what's kind of happening is that they just were here and they just kind of just start marching their forces by land, just kind of taking the coastal territory over here. So they're just kind of just moving this way, taking over territory as they make their way over towards Alexandria. So that's what they're currently doing. And eventually, Octavian's forces reach Alexandria over here. It takes a couple of months, about, I think, 10 or 11 months from they get from here to march over land and get all the way over here. So about a year for them to reach Alexandria. Go ahead and make a bullet and write down Battle of Alexandria. Now, this occurs on July 31st of 30 before coming here. But go ahead and make a bullet and write down Battle of Alexandria. So what ends up happening at Battle of Alexandria is Mark Antony has 12,000 troops. Octavian, with his main general Agrippa, they have 30,000 troops. And in the Battle of Alexandria, Mark Antony is in charge of the defenses of Alexandria. And he is able to hold on to the city of Alexandria for one day, and then the city walls are penetrated by Octavian's troops and they get inside the city. Once Octavian's troops get inside the city, there's a message arrives to Mark Antony telling him that Cleopatra had committed suicide. So Mark Antony, after reading the note, is like, oh, the love of my life, and then he commits suicide by stabbing himself with his own sword. However, it turns out that was false news, and Cleopatra's still totally alive. Go ahead and make a 1, and we'll write down Antony killed himself by sword. So make a 1, and write down Antony killed himself by sword. So Mark Antony kills himself by sword, commits suicide after he gets false news that Cleopatra dies. So that's number 1. After you have that written down, go ahead and make it 2 and write down got false news that Cleopatra died. So he got this news that Cleopatra had died. And once Cleopatra hears that Mark Antony had committed suicide, she decides that there's no way that Octavian is ever going to let her live either. So she also commits suicide herself then at that point in time by having herself be bitten by a poisonous snake. So we're going to write that down for number 3. So number 3, Cleopatra died after being bitten by a poisonous snake. So both Mark Antony and Cleopatra both committed suicide, and they're both dead at this point in time. Octavian takes over Alexandria, and then this makes Egypt a part of the Roman Empire. Eventually, Octavian will find Caesarion, who is the son of Caesar, and Cleopatra finds him, has him killed because, can't have 2 Caesars. And since Octavian is the adopted son of Caesar, having someone who is the biological son of Caesar running around would be a threat to his power, so he has him killed. The 3 kids that Cleopatra and Antony had together are captured by Octavian. However, the oldest son dies somehow. Either Octavian had him executed or he died of a sickness. Not really too sure. But the oldest son ends up dying. The two other kids, the girl and the boy, the girl was named Cleopatra, the boy was named Ptolemy. They're both taken back to Rome along with the dead bodies of Antony and Cleopatra. Octavian takes them all back to Rome, and then when he gets them back on into Rome, he has a giant parade. In the parade, he puts Mark Antony and Cleopatra's bodies on wooden stakes and kind of parades them through the city. And then he has like the two children being pulled behind the dead bodies of the parents by golden chains. Eventually, the youngest boy is killed as well. The daughter of Cleopatra is eventually married off to some king in North Africa. So, yeah. Hey, yo. So that wraps up our story. Octavian wins, and he becomes the first emperor of Rome, and he'll control this territory here. And he'll become Caesar Augustus, and the month of August is named after him. All right. Well, that's it for today's notes.